the gospel of truth. The good news is joy for those who have received the living breath from the Father of life. For he has made himself known through his living word, who came forth from the fullness of the Father and remains forever within him. The Word became the revelation of what had always been hidden, not hidden because the Father was distant, hidden because hearts had wandered into forgetfulness. For forgetfulness is the root of separation. It is the mist that causes a person to imagine they possess life in themselves. It persuades the branch that it can live apart from the vine. It teaches the vessel to believe it is the source. And from this forgetfulness come confusion, fear, striving, and every form of inner wandering. Yet the Father is not discovered through human effort. He is revealed. As light reveals what was already present, so the Father reveals himself to those who receive his breath. For all life proceeds from him. All wisdom proceeds from him. All goodness proceeds from him. Nothing living exists apart from the life that continually flows from the Father. The Word came into the midst of forgetfulness, not merely to provide information, not merely to teach doctrines, but to awaken remembrance, to call wandering hearts back to their source, to remind the thirsty where the water is, to remind the branch where the life is, to remind the vessel who fills it. For the Father has never ceased giving, the breath has never ceased flowing, the light has never ceased shining. What was lost was not the source. What was lost was awareness of the source. Therefore the good news is this: the Father has made himself known. The hidden one has revealed his face. The living breath is available once more to all who receive it. And those who return to him discover that life was never meant to be self-generated. It was always meant to be received, as breath is received, as light is received, as life itself is received. For blessed are those who remember. They awaken to find that the Father was nearer than their own thoughts, and the life they sought was flowing all along. Those who live in forgetfulness search in many directions. They gather knowledge, yet remain thirsty. They build systems, yet remain restless. They labor to establish themselves, not realizing that what they seek cannot be produced by effort. For the one who has forgotten the source naturally searches among created things for what can only come from the Creator. Like a thirsty man drinking from empty vessels, like a branch trying to produce sap from its own wood, like a lamp attempting to shine without oil. So humanity wandered, not because the Father abandoned them, but because forgetfulness covered their understanding, and in forgetfulness, fear was born. Fear gave birth to striving. Striving gave birth to illusion, and illusion produced countless substitutes for the life that only God can give. Yet the Father, who is rich in mercy, did not leave his children to wander forever. He sent forth his living word, not merely as a messenger, not merely as a teacher, but as the visible expression of the Father's own heart. For the Son reveals the Father because he lives from the Father. He speaks what he receives. He does what he sees. He gives what he has first been given. In him there is no independence, no separation, no self-generated life, only perfect union, only continual receiving, only unbroken communion. Therefore, whoever sees the Son sees the pattern of true life, not life created from self, life received from God. For as the Son lives by the Father, so humanity was always meant to live by the breath of God. This is the mystery hidden for many generations. The creature was never designed to become its own source. The vessel was never designed to fill itself. The branch was never designed to nourish itself. Every attempt to do so leads to exhaustion, for life separates from its source only in appearance. In reality, it begins to wither. Yet when the Word speaks, remembrance awakens. The soul begins to recognize what it had forgotten. A deep knowing stirs, not knowledge newly created, recognition restored. The heart remembers the one from whom it came. The thirsty recognize the water, the hungry recognize the bread, the lost recognize the voice of home. For truth is not foreign to the soul, it is familiar. When the Father's voice is heard, something ancient awakens within. Not because the soul possesses life in itself, but because it recognizes the life from which it came. Therefore, those who hear the word with understanding do not merely learn, they return. They cease striving to become their own source. They cease carrying burdens they were never meant to carry. They cease manufacturing what can only be received, and they begin to live once more by the breath. For the Father delights to give, the Son delights to reveal, and the living breath delights to sustain. This is the rest prepared from the beginning, not the rest of inactivity, but the rest of dependence, the peace of the branch abiding in the vine, the peace of the vessel remaining full, the peace of a heart that has ceased wandering and has found its dwelling place again. For where the Father is remembered, life flourishes, and where the Father is forgotten, life slowly fades. Therefore, the good news calls every wandering heart to remembrance, not merely to believe, not merely to understand, but to live once more from the life that never ceases to flow from God. The Father knew His own before the foundations of the ages, not as names written in a distant record, but as those who would one day awaken to His voice. For the shepherd knows his sheep before they recognize the shepherd, and the source knows every stream that proceeds from it. When the appointed time came, the living Word appeared among those wandering in forgetfulness. He entered the places where confusion had taken root. He walked among those carrying burdens they could not lift. He spoke to hearts exhausted from seeking life where life could not be found, and His presence exposed the great illusion, the illusion that man can live apart from God. For every false path ultimately teaches the same lesson. Become your own source. Yet the living Word declared another reality. Remain in the one who gives life. This is the dividing line between truth and deception, not merely right ideas and wrong ideas, but dependence and independence. For every movement toward self-sufficiency leads away from life, and every movement toward the Father leads deeper into life. The Word therefore became a living invitation, a call to return, a call to abide, a call to receive. For the Father does not withhold life from His children, He continually gives it, as the sun continually gives light, as a spring continually gives water, as breath continually fills willing lungs. The problem has never been the Father's unwillingness to give. The problem has always been humanity's tendency to seek elsewhere, yet the Word came to reveal the futility of every substitute. For knowledge without union leaves the soul hungry. Achievement without God leaves the heart restless. Religion without life becomes a shadow without substance. Even sacred things become empty when separated from the living source. For truth is not merely something spoken. Truth is someone known. Life is not merely something possessed. Life is someone received, and righteousness is not something manufactured. It is the fruit that naturally grows where divine life is flowing. Therefore, the Word came not merely to instruct minds, He came to reconnect hearts, to restore communion, to heal separation, to awaken continual awareness of the Father. For the Father seeks children who live from Him as naturally as branches live from the vine, not occasionally, not during moments of need alone, but continually. For continual dependence is not weakness. It is the very design of life. The river remains full because it receives. The tree remains alive because it receives. The lamp continues shining because it receives. And the soul flourishes only while receiving from God. This is the mystery hidden from those who trust in themselves, yet it becomes plain to those who receive the living breath. The more they receive, the more they recognize their need. The more they recognize their need, the more they receive. Thus humility becomes abundance, and dependence becomes strength. For divine life flows most freely through those who no longer imagine themselves to be the source. These are the little ones who enter the kingdom. Not because they know the most, not because they perform the most, but because they receive, and in receiving, they discover the Father's inexhaustible supply. For the Father is not a distant well that occasionally fills. He is the eternal fountain, the living source, the breath behind every true breath, the life behind every true life. And blessed are those who cease drinking from broken vessels, for they shall discover the river that never runs dry. Those who awaken to the Father begin to see differently. What once appeared solid begins to reveal its emptiness. What once appeared powerful begins to reveal its weakness. What once seemed sufficient is exposed as unable to give life. For the light does not argue with darkness, it reveals. And when truth is seen, many things lose their hold without a struggle. The one who has found the spring no longer searches for stagnant pools. The one who has tasted living bread no longer chases shadows of satisfaction. The one who has found the source no longer looks to created things to become what only God can be. For all creation bears witness. Every river speaks of receiving. Every tree speaks of abiding. Every breath speaks of dependence. Every sunrise speaks of continual giving. Creation itself declares what humanity often forgets. Nothing flourishes apart from the life that sustains it. The Father therefore calls his children into reality, not into religious performance, not into endless striving, not into the burden of self-manufactured righteousness, but into participation with his life. For the kingdom is not built through human effort. It unfolds through divine life flowing into willing vessels. The farmer may prepare the soil, but he cannot create the seed. He may plant, he may water, yet the life itself comes from beyond him. So it is with every good thing. The Father remains the source, the breath remains the giver, and humanity remains the receiver. This truth humbles the proud, yet it comforts the weary. For the exhausted soul discovers it was never meant to carry the weight of being its own provider. The fearful soul discovers it was never meant to secure its own future. The striving soul discovers it was never meant to create its own life. All these burdens belong to the illusion of independence, and when the illusion falls, rest begins. Not because activity ceases, but because the heart returns to its proper place. A branch still bears fruit, yet it does not strain to create life. A river still flows, yet it does not manufacture water. A lamp still shines, yet it does not produce its own flame. So too the children of God become fruitful, not through force, but through union, not through anxiety, but through continual receiving, not through self-exaltation, but through continual dependence upon the Father. This is why the living Word came, to reveal what life actually is, to expose every counterfeit source, to tear away every illusion of self-sufficiency, and to restore humanity to the joy of receiving from God. For joy naturally follows dependence rightly understood. The branch rejoices in the vine, the river rejoices in the spring, the child rejoices in the Father, and the soul rejoices in God. The burden of self-creation falls away. The burden of self-sustaining falls away. The burden of self-salvation falls away. For these burdens were never given to humanity. They belong only to the one who gives life. Therefore, those who know the Father become increasingly free, not free from dependence, free through dependence. For every chain forged by forgetfulness begins to break when the soul remembers its source. Fear weakens, pride weakens, striving weakens, the need to prove oneself weakens. For the one who continually receives from God no longer needs to establish what God has already given. And so the awakened soul learns a holy rhythm: receive, trust, abide, receive again. For as breath enters and leaves the body continually, so divine life is received continually. Not once, not occasionally, but moment by moment, day by day, breath by breath, until every part of life becomes a living participation in the goodness that flows eternally from the Father. The Father is not known through distance, he is known through participation. For no one understands light by studying darkness, nor does anyone understand a spring by thirsting beside it. The reality of a thing is known by entering into it. So it is with the Father. Those who receive his life come to know him, not merely as an idea, not merely as a doctrine, but as the living reality from whom all things proceed. For the Father is not hidden from those who abide. He becomes increasingly revealed, as the eyes adjust to light, as dawn gradually fills the horizon, as a seed slowly unfolds into a tree, so awareness of the Father grows within those who continually receive from Him, and as this awareness grows, another thing begins to fade: the illusion of separation. For separation is the deepest wound of forgetfulness. It convinces the soul that it stands alone, that it must carry its own weight, that it must provide its own life, that it must protect itself from every uncertainty, yet none of these burdens belong to the children of God. For the Father never intended His children to live apart from His supply, just as the body depends upon breath, just as the earth depends upon rain, just as the stars depend upon the word that upholds them. So the soul depends upon the continual giving of God. This dependence is not a condition of weakness, it is the design of reality itself. Only the Father possesses life in Himself. Only the Father is the fountain. Everything else drinks, everything else receives, everything else lives, because He continually gives. The living Word came to reveal this eternal order. He showed what humanity was always meant to be. Not independent, not self-originating, not self-sustaining, but united, receiving, living through communion with the Father. Therefore, His life became a testimony. Every word He spoke testified to dependence. Every work He performed testified to dependence. Every act of love testified to dependence. For He continually revealed the Father's life flowing through Him. And by revealing this pattern, He exposed the great deception beneath all human pride: the desire to become a source, the desire to possess life apart from God, the desire to rule without receiving. This desire has always produced the same fruit: exhaustion, confusion, fear, division, and ultimately death. For no created thing can survive while severed from its source. Yet the Father did not reveal this truth to condemn. He revealed it to heal. For every revelation of dependence is also an invitation to return, an invitation to receive, an invitation to rest. The Father's correction is the correction of love. He exposes false sources so His children may drink from the true one. He exposes empty wells so His children may find living water. He exposes illusion so His children may enter reality, and reality is beautiful. Reality is that the Father delights to give. Reality is that His supply has never diminished. Reality is that His breath has never ceased moving. Reality is that His life remains available to every willing heart. Therefore, the awakened soul no longer asks, "How can I produce life?" Instead, it asks, "How can I remain open to the life that is already being given?" This question changes everything, for the focus shifts from effort to reception, from striving to abiding, from self-reliance to trust. The soul begins to live as creation itself lives, receiving what the Father continually provides. And in this receiving, peace deepens, joy deepens, wisdom deepens, love deepens, not because the soul becomes the source of these things, but because the soul becomes increasingly united with the One who is. For all goodness remains His goodness. All wisdom remains His wisdom. All love remains His love. All life remains His life. And blessed are those who know this, for they have ceased chasing what can only be received. They have entered the freedom of dependence. They have remembered the eternal order, and they have begun to live once more by the holy breath that proceeds forever from the Father of life. Those who receive the Father's life begin to discover a great mystery. The more they receive, the less they boast. The more they receive, the more gratitude grows. For one cannot continually drink from a spring and still imagine He created the water. One cannot continually receive breath and still imagine He created the air. One cannot continually receive life from God and still imagine He is the author of life. Thus, true knowledge produces humility, not because humility is forced, but because reality becomes clear. Everything good is seen for what it truly is: a gift, a continual gift, a gift that never originated within the receiver, The Father therefore becomes the center of all thanksgiving, for the awakened soul begins to see His hand everywhere, in every good thought, in every act of love, in every moment of wisdom, in every expression of truth. The soul no longer asks, "What have I achieved?" It begins to ask, "What have I received?" For what can a vessel claim as its own? Can the cup boast of the water it contains? Can the lamp boast of the flame it carries? Can the branch boast of the fruit that grows through it? All such boasting disappears in the light of truth. The fruit remains, the blessing remains, the goodness remains, but the glory returns to the source. This is why the children of the Father walk in gratitude, not because life is free from difficulty, but because they have discovered that even in difficulty, the source remains present. The spring continues to flow, the breath continues to sustain, the life continues to give itself, for circumstances do not govern the Father's supply. His giving proceeds from His nature. He gives because He is the giver. He loves because He is love. He sustains because He is life, and nothing outside of Him can diminish what flows from Him. This realization removes many fears, for fear often arises from the belief that we must secure life ourselves. Fear whispers, "What if there is not enough? What if I lose what sustains me? What if I cannot provide what is needed?" Yet the awakened heart begins to see differently. The source has not changed. The fountain has not dried up. The Father's hand has not weakened. The holy breath has not ceased to move. Therefore, trust grows where fear once ruled. Not trust in circumstances, not trust in personal ability, trust in the continual faithfulness of the one who gives life. This trust becomes a doorway into deeper communion, for anxiety turns the eyes toward the self. Trust turns the eyes toward the Father, and whatever the eyes continually behold begins to shape the heart. Those who continually look to themselves become burdened by themselves. Those who continually look to the Father become strengthened by His life. For attention follows affection, and affection follows awareness. The more aware the soul becomes of the Father's continual giving, the more naturally it rests in Him. This is why the living Word came. To direct wandering attention back to the Father, to restore awareness of the source, to awaken remembrance of the giver, for forgetfulness turns the soul inward, remembrance turns the soul upward. Forgetfulness breeds striving, remembrance restores receiving, forgetfulness magnifies lack, remembrance reveals abundance. Thus the work of truth is the work of remembrance, not merely remembering facts. Remembering reality, remembering who God is, remembering who the creature is, remembering that all life flows from the Father and returns to the Father, and those who live in this remembrance discover a peace that the world cannot produce. For they have ceased carrying the impossible burden of being their own source. They have returned to the joy of being sustained. They have returned to the freedom of receiving. They have returned to the life that was flowing before they knew it. And in that life they find rest for their souls. The Father's purpose has always been fullness, not emptiness, not lack, not distance, for the nature of the Father is to give Himself. As a fountain pours forth water, as light pours forth from the sun, as fragrance pours forth from a living tree, so the Father continually pours forth life, and the purpose of creation was always to participate in that life. Yet forgetfulness gave rise to another way of thinking, a way built upon separation, a way built upon self-preservation, a way built upon the belief that life must be acquired, protected, and maintained apart from God. From this belief came countless burdens, the burden of proving worth, the burden of creating identity, the burden of securing significance, the burden of manufacturing righteousness. And beneath them all stood the same hidden assumption: I must become what only God can provide. This assumption became the root of much suffering, for the soul was never designed for such labor. A branch can attempt to create sap, yet in doing so it only reveals its inability. A vessel can attempt to generate water, yet in doing so, it only reveals its emptiness. So too the soul becomes weary when it attempts to create what can only be received. The living word came to expose this hidden weariness, not to shame the weary, but to free them. For the Father does not demand self-created life, he offers his own. This is the kindness hidden within truth. Truth reveals dependence, but dependence reveals provision. The Father never uncovers the emptiness of false sources without also revealing the abundance of the true source. For every exposure is an invitation. Every correction is a calling. Every revelation of need is an opportunity to receive. Thus those who hear the word rightly do not fall into despair. They fall into trust, for they discover that every lack points beyond itself. Every hunger points beyond itself. Every thirst points beyond itself, toward the one who satisfies, toward the one who fills, toward the one who gives without measure. The Father therefore becomes the answer hidden within every longing, the hunger for meaning, the hunger for belonging, the hunger for peace, the hunger for permanence, the hunger for love. Each one is a witness. Each one testifies that the soul was made for more than itself. Each one points toward the life that proceeds from God. And when the soul finally turns toward Him, something remarkable happens. The striving begins to loosen. The restless search begins to quiet. The endless pursuit begins to slow. Not because desire dies, but because desire finds its proper object. For all created desires ultimately seek the Creator. Even when they wander through lesser things, even when they lose themselves among shadows, the deepest longing beneath every longing is for the Father, and the Father has already moved toward those who seek Him, long before they knew how to seek, long before they understood what they lacked, long before they recognized His voice. His life was already calling to them. His breath was already sustaining them. His goodness was already drawing them. For the Father's love does not begin when humanity awakens. It is humanity that awakens to a love already present, a life already given, a breath already sustaining. This realization fills the soul with wonder, for one discovers that the Father's faithfulness was never dependent upon human awareness. The spring flowed before it was found, the sun shone before it was noticed, the breath sustained before it was acknowledged. So it is with God. His giving precedes our receiving. His faithfulness precedes our trust. His life precedes our awakening. And when this is understood, gratitude deepens beyond words. For everything begins and ends with Him. The Father is the beginning of every good thing. The Father is the sustainer of every good thing. The Father is the fulfillment of every good thing. And blessed are those who come to know this. For they no longer wander among broken cisterns. They no longer seek life among shadows. They no longer labor beneath the illusion of independence. They have found the fountain, and having found the fountain, they learn to drink continually. For the life of God is not merely the beginning of the journey. It is the journey itself, received, given, received again, forever flowing from the Father of life. For the Father desires not merely servants who obey, He desires children who share His life. For obedience without life becomes labor, knowledge without life becomes pride, religion without life becomes form. But where His life is received, everything finds its proper place. Obedience becomes the natural movement of love. Truth becomes the natural expression of light. Righteousness becomes the natural fruit of abiding. For fruit does not struggle to appear upon a healthy tree. It emerges from the life flowing within it. So it is with those who live from the Father. What He continually gives begins to appear through them. His peace appears. His wisdom appears. His patience appears. His kindness appears, not because they manufacture these things, but because His life is expressing itself through willing vessels. This is the mystery many seek to reverse. They attempt to produce the fruit in order to obtain the life. Yet the Father's order has always been the opposite. Receive the life, and the fruit will follow. Abide in the vine. and the harvest will come. Drink from the fountain, and the river will overflow. For the Father has never asked his children to create what only he can supply. He asks them to remain open to his giving. This openness is the doorway to transformation. Not transformation through effort, transformation through participation. As iron placed in fire begins to share the qualities of the fire, as a branch joined to a vine begins to share the life of the vine, so the soul joined to God begins to share in what God continually gives, and this sharing becomes communion, not an occasional experience, not a rare spiritual moment, but a continual fellowship of receiving and responding. The Father gives, the child receives, the child responds, the Father gives again. This holy exchange becomes the rhythm of life, the rhythm that existed before forgetfulness entered the world, the rhythm the living Word came to restore. For forgetfulness disrupted communion. It persuaded humanity to seek life elsewhere. It persuaded humanity to trust in itself. It persuaded humanity to build apart from the source. And the result was fragmentation. For whenever the creature attempts to stand apart from the Creator, division follows. The heart becomes divided. The mind becomes divided. Desires become divided. Communities become divided. Even knowledge becomes divided. For separation multiplies confusion. Yet the Father gathers what forgetfulness scatters. The living Word came as a gathering voice, calling scattered hearts home, calling divided minds into truth, calling thirsty souls back to the fountain, calling wandering children back to the Father's house. For the Father's house is not merely a place. It is participation in his life. It is dwelling within his continual giving. It is resting beneath his continual care. It is living within the flow of his eternal goodness. Those who enter this dwelling discover a remarkable freedom. They no longer need to pretend, for the Father already knows them. They no longer need to prove themselves, for their worth is received, not earned. They no longer need to establish their own righteousness, for righteousness grows where his life is received. Many fears quietly disappear here: the fear of failure, the fear of insufficiency, the fear of rejection, the fear of lack. Not because circumstances become perfect, but because the soul becomes anchored in a source greater than circumstances. For the Father's supply is not governed by the changing world. His life proceeds from eternity. His goodness proceeds from eternity. His faithfulness proceeds from eternity. And what proceeds from eternity cannot be exhausted by time. Therefore, those who know the Father learn a new way of living, not from scarcity, but from abundance, not from anxiety, but from trust, not from self-reliance, but from continual dependence upon the holy breath. For they have learned the secret hidden from many. The more completely one receives from God, the more fully one becomes what God intended. Not by becoming a source, but by remaining connected to the source. For this is life. This is truth. This is remembrance. And this is the joy that the living Word came to restore to all who hear his voice and return to the Father of life.